All right, so in lieu of story number one, we're just going to have a crock pot of stories. We called it the Blurbs last week, so we'll call it the Blurbs again. Basically, all it is a list of stories that don't really deserve their own segment, but we'll talk about all of them anyway.
No, they need to be talked about.
Yeah, but not necessarily a 5 to 10 minute conversation on each one.
Correct.
Right? So we'll start out with this one. Rob Manfred, MLB commissioner, stated he wants to expand from 30 teams to 32, and he actually listed cities. Now, did you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. Portland, Las Vegas, Charlotte, Nashville, and in Canada, Montreal and Vancouver, and then he didn't say a specific city, but places in Mexico is what he said. What are your thoughts on taking this international for them?
Well, the international part I like a lot. I think the Mexico cities would do really, really well. Baseball is having a problem with attendance right now, and the Latin American countries, just that is their number one sport outside of soccer. It ranks up there with ratings as high as football, and so I think that it is wise to go after that market. I don't think that would be unwise. As much as I love we knew this was going to happen. All we needed was one team to put a pro team in Vegas. I've been saying this for a decade. One team does it, one league does it, all the rest are going to flock. It is going to be a wild success. They are all looking at hockey right now saying, holy crap, what if we would have been the first? And so I do believe that a team will be in Vegas. Nashville is like the coolest, hippest city in the country right now. You know, it is the new Austin, what Austin was for the last decade, I think. And I don't know how long-lived that is. I would love to see it just because it's close to us. And around here in the South, we've got a lot of baseball teams, but they're pretty spread out. Like where we live, you're driving 5 to 6 hours away before you get to your closest place.
From Memphis, it's Atlanta, St. Louis.
St. Louis is 5, Atlanta's 6. And then after you get those, I mean, you're going 9 hours.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to, Dallas
Cincinnati
and
Dallas and Houston. God, Houston's longer than that.
Yeah.
So you go a long way before you get to baseball, and baseball's pretty big in the South. So it was just one of those things where I wouldn't mind Nashville and Vegas. But my thought is this, and so many leagues are so against it. I'm not a big fan of and I know we're going a little longer on the blurb here.
No, it's okay.
But I'm not a fan of just ripping teams out of cities. But at some point in time, you got to realize nobody's going to baseball in Florida. They're just not.
No.
Florida needs to lose. Tampa Bay's about to build another stadium.
Even when they were, good.
Great. Tampa and Miami both need to lose theirs. You add 2 more cities. You can do Nashville. You can do Vegas. You can be in the 2 hip cities, fun cities, and then you put 2 teams in Mexico. If I was the commissioner, that would be what I'd do. Tampa Bay is about to spend a lot of money on a new stadium again, another one. No, we don't want your stadium. It's not going to bring people. It just isn't.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think I agree. Canada's already got Toronto.
And Montreal didn't work out last time.
Yeah, it didn't work out the last time, so why would you go back?
Yeah.
I just don't understand that part of it. Vancouver, look, they didn't support the Grizzlies. Like the Grizzlies moved.
I understand
NBA and MLB are 2 completely different things. I get that, but
I'm not against going to Canada, but the difference is if you put a team in Vegas, people will come from all over the world to go to that team.
Yeah.
All the Latin American countries that want an MLB team or to want to watch their Latin American players, they're all going to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
And so that team has to, if you're going to expand, that has to be an expansion. And I think Mexico is just a solid choice because of the Latin American culture.
So long as you can work it out with their government and everything else.
Yeah,
right?
But we work it out with Toronto. Like, we don't have a problem. These leagues don't have that issue. Our country has that issue. These leagues don't.
I agree. All right, next up, it was big news, last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever it was.
That's right.
Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors and DeMar DeRozan to the Spurs. And the Spurs didn't only give up Kawhi, they gave up Danny Green. There's not a lot of three-point shooting left on this Spurs team. Does either team win this trade?
Oh, yeah. I think the Spurs win this trade big. First, the Spurs, the reason why the Spurs always have, this is kind of a known fact from NBA insider guys, the Spurs have the best shooting coach in the league. That's the reason they're able to turn out three-point shooter after three-point shooter. There is no doubt 2 or 3 guys will show up this year on this roster that we've never heard of as three-point shooters, and they'll be 3 of the best in top 15 in the league. DeMar DeRozan's already a top 15 player in the NBA. He's signed for 3 years. The Raptors are getting a rental player. They paid a lot. And I also think that the Spurs got a pick too.
Yeah, it was super protected, though.
Yeah, well, it's not that protected. I know it's a number one protected.
It's top 20 protected.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But you're not really worried about it.
And if they don't get it this year, then it turns into 2 second rounds after that.
That's right.
So that's fine.
I think DeRozan for Kawhi right now is a win, knowing that one guy's locked up for 3 years and the other guy is a 1-year wonder and he's off to L.A. I just don't see him being able to sell him on staying.
I don't think so either. But, look, people have brought up the idea that Kawhi Leonard doesn't like the spotlight. What place in the world is less spotlight, at least for the NBA, than Toronto?
No, that's true. But here's the difference, though. See, I don't think...
I couldn't see Kawhi Leonard hanging out with Drake.
First things first, don't tell me you don't like the spotlight, but you want to go to L.A., okay? And you've been such a diva about this whole thing.
He's from there.
I don't care. That doesn't matter. When you were there, you weren't rich and famous. So don't tell me you like the spotlight. You don't want the spotlight. If you don't want the spotlight,
the other thing
you go to places like Charlotte.
Well, no,
you go places like Memphis and New Orleans where nobody knows your name.
The other thing about the not wanting the spotlight in L.A., if you're an NBA superstar like Kawhi Leonard, you just another guy walking down the block.
Yeah, but the spotlight is but there's TMZ walking down that same block watching everything you do.
That's true.
Go ask Tony Allen how many times. Everybody in Memphis loved him. How many people bothered him? And how many people messed with him? None. When you walk down the street, none. Zebo, where they found home at. Now those are 2 different guys in Kawhi.
Agreed.
Ask Mark and Mike. Those are more Kawhi speed. And I know Memphis because I know this area because of where we're from, but I think New Orleans would be the same. I think Charlotte would be the same. You got rich people in these towns all over the place. They would see that person's rich, but they wouldn't go bother them. In L.A., people have no qualms about, that's a famous person, I'm going to go get an autograph. That's a famous person, I'm going to take the picture. Or, hey, I'm TMZ, and who you going out with tonight? Who's that girl in your arm? Who's this? Who's that?
Yeah, they want to know everything.
Questions. Nobody asks you those questions in these small towns. None.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I do kind of like that. The old joke was that Pop was going to send him to Siberia. He sent him to Siberia.
He sent him pretty damn close to Siberia.
That's right.
All right. Larry Fedora at ACC Media Days last Wednesday. Now, you saw this, right?
Yes,
it made huge headlines and whatnot. He said football is under attack. Mm-hmm. He said if football goes down, the country goes down with it. He said that CTE has not been proven to be connected with football. What the hell? Tell me how long until North Carolina gets rid of, because this is embarrassing. He did not just say it in his speech. The sports information director for North Carolina realized what was happening because as soon as he said this stuff, tweets started firing out.
Well, yeah, that's the world we live in.
Right. And as soon as all this stuff starts to make head on social media and it starts to go viral, he went out to a few select reporters and said, hey, Coach Fedora wants to clarify a few things with you guys. Can y'all stick around another 10 or 15 after he gets done on the stage? And he wants to talk to y'all about what he said. Yeah. And then he comes out and he doubles down on everything. There was a study done on 111 former football players. And out of the 111, 110 had CTE. That's just one of a ton of different stories. Football is not going to be able to get away from CTE. It is just a part of it. And if you understand it and you know what you're getting yourself into, then okay. But for a coach to think that, at one, you should be worried about the safety of your players, right? I think any rational coach would, maybe not rational, any good public speaking coach that understands the scenario would have, one, not even touched the subject because it wasn't asked of him, he just brought it up. But two, they would understand that it is a whole different climate now, right? What are your thoughts on this? Does North Carolina find a way to get rid of him if he doesn't have a good year this year?
No, I mean, I wouldn't get rid of him because of this. I mean, here's the thing. So, yes, it's not a smart thing to say, but we've always talked about this. Outside of football, these guys would barely be PE teachers.
Yeah,
like it's not like they'd be. It's not like they'd be.
Now there's some that would be good at other things.
Very few. Very few. These guys are borderline Neanderthals. They're just really smart at football. Okay, so thanks. You have an opinion. Here's the thing. There's something that he kind of brought up in his thing though, and I kind of admire what he's saying in the sense of I played football, and I didn't play it super long, but I learned a lot about life for it. I learned a lot about competing for something that I wanted. I learned that, it's not just going to be handed to me. I've got to go work for it, and if somebody outworks me, they get it.
Yeah.
And then I'm standing there without it.
And that part of it I don't disagree with.
But you got
the CTE thing is where I'm pointing at.
But he doesn't understand. What we know about CTE and head trauma today is going to be drastically different than what we're going to know in 10 years or in 20 years. That's just true. That's just what medical science is going to tell us. It's a million different things. We've been around studying diets and weight loss and healthy living for a long time. And today, it's 2018, and we still can't agree on what the healthiest way to live is. So science is always kind of taking that next step. There's no doubt CTE is from head trauma. The other side of that is Mark Schlereth kind of defended him, okay? And I shared this post out on Twitter the other day, and he talked about how he agrees with the sense of without things like football, all of these men playing this game and working in this game would probably be doing something that is detrimental to their health. Yeah. Because life is about, you get more out of life for having purpose than you do doing something healthy. Okay,
that makes sense.
And so so many of these guys, as soon as they coaches especially, as soon as they quit playing, they die. The guys that played and hurt lived a long time, but as soon as they stop being around football, their body gives out. They have nothing to live for anymore. They have nothing that they're fighting for. And so while head trauma is a serious thing that this game has to figure out, we also have to understand that all of these people that do this game, it gives them purpose in life. And regardless of if that purpose is valuable to you or to anyone else, it's valuable to them. It gives them a reason to wake up in the morning and go to work and to put their body at risk. It's not for the money.
Agreed.
Yes, they make an obscene amount of money compared to you and I and standard people, but it is the least profitable sport for the player out of every major sport out there. Every golfer, just about, that makes the PGA Tour and plays in all four majors will make more than almost every NFL player except for the top 1%. Every baseball player, there are guys that are minors that bounce back and forth that will make more money than a lot of these NFL players in baseball. Hockey and soccer and soccer is obscene amounts of money once you get into Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not even crazy. So if these guys who are the best athletes in the world were to play another sport, if they picked another sport to go dominate, then they would make grossly more than what they're making now.
Agreed.
This game gives them purpose.
Agreed.
So we need to remember that. I don't think you fire a guy for not being smart about science. He's not a science teacher. He's a football coach. I'm working under the assumption that outside of football, you're dumb at everything else.
Agreed. So I'm curious because North Carolina has a certain reputation that they uphold as far as being a smarter university, et cetera, et cetera.
Because they also are the university that had like underwater classes that
academic
didn't
fraud.
Really exist.
I understand.
Yeah,
I got all that.
I think and they are right in the heart of the South where it is very much, tough it up. That people around where we live still have questions about CTE no matter how much science you give them. So
Agreed.
He is probably in the best place for this. If he was at Berkeley, if he was at Stanford.
I think if he was in the SEC, he would be fine. I think at North Carolina, it's a little bit different.
I don't see North Carolina any better than any of our SEC schools.
We shall see. All right, we're going to wrap up with this. Ryan Nanni, SBNation, our buddy at Celebrity Hot Tub. We got to get him back on the show. He wrote an article for SBNation, and he doesn't write a whole lot, but he said why it should cost 1 point to punt. Now, he's got some interesting points here. Let me go through the 7 points.
Okay.
All right. 1, keep games closer. He said, this is explanation here, and I'm not going to explain every one, but this is the main reason, right? Right now, one purpose the punt serves is to protect the lead. It doesn't eliminate that entirely, but it does compromise it. Punt on your last 3 possessions in the current system with a 17-point lead, and your opponent has to score every time they get the ball. Do the same thing under this new system where it costs a point to punt every time, and now they only need 2 touchdowns. Essentially, we're making coaches really consider whether or not to punt rather than just do it because it's the comparatively safe option. Number 2 was it's more balanced than you'd think. FBS teams punted a combined 82-33 times last year. Now, that's 8,000-plus points to distribute. The difference is Alabama and Ohio State each had 39 more punts forced than punts themselves, so that wouldn't change much right there, right? Number 3, coaches will have to go for it on 4th down more often, which makes things more entertaining.
Correct.
Number 4, when coaches elect to punt, it's going to feel weightier. Absolutely, because every time you punt,
you're giving up
a point. So say you score a touchdown early, and then you're just playing. Well, a 7-0 lead can end up being 3-0 in a quarter. So it won't weigh as much, or it will weigh more. Fake punts would be even more satisfying. I agree with that. Fake punts are already awesome, but if you fake one during this, I mean, that's awesome. It rewards defenses more tangibly. And then number 7, scores are going to get really, really funny. And I'm cool with that. He brings up Michigan beating Rutgers a couple of years ago, 78-0. So he said Michigan punted 4 times, so let's mark them down to 74. Rutgers 16 punts, which would make a final score of 74 to -16. And then he said, hell yes.
So the kicker is what do you do if you're at negatives? Or just every time you punt, you just give the other team a point. That way you never have negatives.
I'm curious.
Because what happens if you go 3 and out your first drive? Like now you're punting.
Yeah.
You can't go past 0 because we'll never have it. But I like this. I know that there's a lot of.
If you don't go past 0, then you're good. But as long as you've got points on the board, it will cost you a point if you.
I say no.
I
say every time you punt, you just give the other team a point. That's fine. It's the same concept. It changes nothing about the concept.
That makes sense. It
changes nothing. It just means when you're 0-0 and you start the game 3 and out, the other team's going to start out 1-0 if you punt. And I'm for this.
So a 7-0 lead could actually end up being 8, 9, 10-0.
That's right. Correct.
Before the other team ever even scores.
Correct. That's the way I would do it because you have the question of what do you do when the team is at 0. But I love this concept. I hate kicking the football at all points. I think there are several high school coaches that have won multiple state championships that have this philosophy of they never punt, they onside kick every time, and the math tells you it's the right thing to do. In college, it's probably different. The math wouldn't tell you it's right every time, but I think it tells you it's right more than not, and I think it would save a lot of jobs, and it would cost a lot of jobs. But I'm for this. College football will never do it. Pro football will never do it. I wish that XFL would absolutely
it'd be awesome.
This.
If you could see it work in another league, it'd be great. It'd be great. All right, we're going to move into our SEC East preview.